like to bring our head of R&D and other cool robotic things to give you a talk.
Hello, everyone. I am Zachary, head of research and development, and innovation, and synergy, and cool robots. And today, I want to talk about cyberpunk. The genre, not the game. I want to discuss and explore what makes something cyberpunk, and to that end, we'll be examining a specific piece of media near and dear to my heart, and that is the Protomen rock opera.
Yes!
How many are familiar?
I am.
The five of you have excellent taste. So, for the uninitiated, it is a story that spans 3 musical albums, and if I had to describe it, it's like a soundtrack to a John Carpenter film starring Mega Man characters, set in 1984, the book, not the year, except the robots are Terminators, and it's a spaghetti western sometimes.
I'm surprised you're all over this shit.
It is a weird piece of media that takes inspiration from a lot of places, and for an extremely abridged plot summary, we start with an old mining town, simply and merely referred to as this city. And we have Dr. Wily, the villain of the Mega Man video game series, and he murders the girlfriend of Dr. Light, Emily, and frames Light for the murder. And then through a combination of media manipulation and having a robot army and pure unadulterated riz, he achieves a techno-fascist surveillance state where a robot has stolen your job and you better not have strong opinions about that. And that's the gist of the lore that you need. The fun thing about it is that outside of the major events that are depicted in the opera, a lot of details about life in the city are left up to interpretation. This means that I get to read way too deeply into some minor details, and also I can just say things and nobody in this room can prove me wrong. But is it cyberpunk? Well, that's what we're here to find out. Let's begin our analysis. The broadest, loosest definition of cyberpunk that you may have already heard is high-tech, low-life. And by those parameters, the Protomen arguably fit, but that's very vague, so let's break it down by common hallmarks and tropes of the genre and see if they apply. First, you need a dystopic setting. I think this is one of the most obvious ones. I would argue that you can have dystopia without cyberpunk, but it's really hard to have cyberpunk without dystopia. For instance, nobody is referring to George Orwell's 1984 as cyberpunk. So yes, if it weren't already obviously a point in the opera's favor, after the plot summary, it even makes direct references to 1984 with reused lines like, "We are the dead," and the mention of telescreens. Now, speaking of screens, advanced technology. This is a complicated one because technology takes many forms and I can't lump them all together in one category. A piece of science fiction, especially the older it is, can have dissonant levels of technology, which is why Back to the Future Part 2 has flying cars, smart clothing, and food rehydrators, but they're still using projectors and dot matrix fax machines. It's why Johnny Mnemonic can have a neural implant that turns part of his brain into a hard drive, but it can only have a storage capacity of 80 gigabytes. That's less space than Cyberpunk 2077 takes up. So we'll rapid fire through some of them, starting with the obvious. Are there robots?
Yes.
Yes, there are. We have a positive on bots, but unlike the clean and cuddly look of classic Mega Man robots, these are gritty and grounded androids. Is there cyberware? This is a very common trope in hard cyberpunk. The melding of man and machine. Does it apply? No, it does not. There are no themes of transhumanism here. Lyrics like this, men sleep tonight with hands of bone, they will awake with hands of steel, are purely metaphorical. Everyone who isn't a robot is unfortunately a 100% natural homegrown meat bag. Is there AI? I'm sorry, that's the wrong slide. Is there AI? Yes. It feels a bit like cheating because AI and robots sort of go hand in hand, but yes, both Mega and Proto are capable of sentient thought and complex human emotions, mostly the negative ones. These are machines that can hate their existence.
Good times.
Relatable.
Is there cyberspace? Do they use computers a lot? Is there virtual reality? No, not really. Honestly, computers aren't really focused on. One can imagine Light used a computer to program his robot sons, but all of his devices that are depicted are pretty analog and low-tech by comparison. So, are the Protomen high-tech? Kind of. Advanced technology exists beside from the robots and telescreens everywhere. Everything else is pretty low-tech by comparison. I've heard the phrase cassette futurism used to describe it by my friend who writes for the Protomen Wikipedia article. On to the next trope. Is there a blending of Western and Eastern culture? This is how you get your Blade Runner noodle shops, your Japanese Zaibatsus, your Arasaka corporations. This is prominent especially in a lot of early cyberpunk because, fun fact, authors were inspired by the racist anti-Asian sentiment at the time. People were worried that countries like Japan were advancing too quickly in regards to technology. Which would lead them to becoming a dominant superpower. Does it apply to the Protomen? Yes, it does! In the second half of Act 2, we consistently see signage throughout the city depicted using Japanese kanji. Even the logo for Wily's organization or governing body is accompanied with the kanji for robot, which I thought was really cute. It's ubiquitous enough that I'd wager it's perhaps the city's second language. And piggybacking off that last one where I mentioned an evil corporation, the last trope I have is anti-capitalist messaging. Again, your Arasaka, your Shinra corporations. This middle guy, he is Lofweir, a literal dragon acting as the CEO of the Seder Krupp mega corporation. We all know capitalism sucks. Often, that's how we end up in a dystopic setting in the first place. But does it apply?
Yes.
Kind of. So Wily sort of dismantled the former typical capitalist system by replacing literally all human workers with robots. And we know that humans receive a generous severance, but after those severances dry up, we don't know if there is alternative work for humans or if they receive a government stipend to survive. We only know that somehow the people eke out a meager and miserable existence. If we had more detail, it could be a very anti-capitalist message about how we're replacing human workers with machines or AI, but we just don't know enough. And there are no corporations directly mentioned. We know that some exist. Like, this is a very small portion of the Act 3 cover, but they don't directly factor into the dystopia. So those are most of the common tropes and hallmarks of the cyberpunk genre, but obviously a piece of cyberpunk media need not necessarily tick all of those boxes. So I wanted to see if I could represent this visually, and there are a couple alignment charts that exist. For example, this chart measures by level of technology and ideology and themes, and I would place the Protomen rock opera in about true neutral. It has futuristic technology that is not necessarily computer-based, and it has a dystopian setting while not being necessarily anti-capitalist. In theory, I don't think this is a terrible way of looking at it. I just think that some of these pics are a little memey and shitposty. Like, the Lorax is cyberpunk is really, like, it's on the same level as saying Ratatouille is mecha to me. Yeah. Yeah.
Let him cook.
Okay. And the second chart, this second chart is measured by how cyber and how punk something is, and I would place it somewhere in punk purist and somewhere between cyber neutral and cyber rebel. It has strong anti-fascist political themes, but elements of technology are debatable. And also notice that Star Wars has also shifted from the center to the right. But neither of these charts leave me altogether satisfied, as they are 100% unscientific and based entirely on vibes. So I took it upon myself to make a graph that is 100% unscientific and based entirely on vibes. I dubbed this the Zachary fucked future formula. Vertically, we measure by level of technological advancement, and horizontally, it measures the prospect of living in one of these settings, and it gets bleaker the further you get to the right. You get it? It's a political joke. So now let's establish some reference points. Our baseline down here, or our 0, is the year 1991, the peak of human civilization. We've come a long way in terms of technology since then, and not only was that the year that the Cold War ended, but the doomsday clock was set the furthest it has ever been from midnight. 17 minutes from midnight in 1991. Does anyone know where we're currently at? 85 seconds from midnight. And so I'd place 2026 somewhere around there. And ooh, for fun, let's put Nazi Germany here. It's like we haven't quite gotten to the point of ethnic cleansing by gas chamber, but ooh, they're flirting with it. And to represent the extremes of our axis, at the top of Y, we have Star Trek: The Next Generation. It may not be the most like technologically advanced sci-fi, but it's up there, and it is by far the most optimistic. Like, things aren't perfect in the Star Trek future, but neither is 1991. And then likewise, on the far right, we have George Orwell's 1984. Again, we brought it up already. And it's the archetypal dystopia, and it's perfect. Just any resistance is systematically quashed. But there's no technology in it that... Well, that's not an endorsement. It's not an endorsement.
It used to be better in 1984.
But there's no technology in it that we weren't theoretically capable of in the 90s. And lastly, some additional thresholds. For instance, for traveling into space, we have the prolonged spaceflight threshold, as well as the post-apocalyptic threshold there on the right. So at this point, we're able to leave the Earth for extended periods of time. And at that point, it just gets so bleak we're into post-apocalypse. Now, with our reference points out of the way, we can plot some data. So I have not just cyberpunk media, but I have various... pieces of science fiction. We've got Star Wars. I've got the original Mega Man. Well, 3 of them on there. In here is what I would refer to as the cyberpunk cluster. Yeah. Yes, this is a perfect time for questions. If you have a question about how a specific series could fit onto the chart, please go ahead.
Where would we put Horizon Zero Dawn?
Horizon Zero Dawn,
Technically,
that's
it's
post-apocalyptic.
Yes.
That's past the line.
Well, here's the thing. They're surviving.
They are.
I will say
I would
apocalypse
say-
didn't happen, but
I
they're
would,
surviving.
I would say somewhere above the line after post-apocalypse.
Well, with the second one, I would say only for some, everyone else.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Jill.
I have a question about a book. Where would we place Fahrenheit 451?
Oh, okay. Fahrenheit is. I've never personally read Fahrenheit, but
Yeah,
I know
cyber
that's
dogs and you talk to the
that's a
TV.
seminal piece of dystopian fiction. I'd probably put it close down to 1984.
That makes sense.
It's pretty close. Who else is next? Yeah.
I see the Matrix here. What's this other Keanu Reeves one?
Oh, that's Johnny Mnemonic. Yeah. Yes.
He's also in Cyberpunk.
Yes. Yeah, he is also in Cyberpunk.
In the back.
That's it.
What is it?
Mr. Hurd.
Yes.
Speaking of Keanu Reeves, how does time travel fit into this with Bill and Ted?
It just does. It just does.
That's the.
You gotta with stories with time travel. You need to like segment it. Like which bit of time are you talking? Which is why I've got Terminator up here in tech, but it's just past the post-apocalyptic threshold. Yeah, I would probably put. Let's see. I think Back to the Future Part 2, like the year, I think it was like 2015. That's somewhere around like here. It's not it's not very bleak, but they're technologically advanced. But the other one, like the present when he goes back and Biff is we're like like somewhere around there. Yeah.
Do we know if they got to space? It's unclear.
It's unclear. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? No. Where's sorry?
Dune.
Well, that's
above the line for
definitely
sure.
yeah. That's somewhere I would say.
Dune's the
Wait,
top
whoa,
right-hand corner.
Is that the future? It's a different planet.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah.
But it's still
It's
pretty
still pretty
shitty to
bleak.
live
It's still
there.
pretty bleak. Yeah. So it's not. It's before the post-apocalyptic threshold, but it's somewhere
Yeah, but when
somewhere
they-
up in here.
It's System Shock.
Yeah.
around the System Shock
Between
area.
System Shock and Star Wars. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Adam.
I can't help but notice that, and I realize this is probably a selection bias thing.
Yeah.
We have a concerning amount of media that is to the right of Nazi Germany on this graph. I have often heard people say that maybe we need to get better at writing more hopeful, more optimistic pieces of media. And now I'm just like posing the question to you and everyone else. Can we like think of some stuff to fill out this other side?
Oh, that's a great idea.
I would disagree. Maybe we just need to move Nazi Germany
Over a little bit, maybe.
Tell your authors to take antidepressants.
Do you think Nazi Germany is halfway to the apocalypse?
I just wanted to give
When was the last
plenty
time
of
you talked to
space
your-
for stuff that's worse than Nazi Germany.
The Matrix belongs to the right of Nazi Germany, to be fair.
Yeah.
Remember though, science fiction isn't written about the future. Science fiction is written about the present.
Mhm.
Right?
That's true.
If people feel that way.
That's
There's
true.
a reason for it.
Yeah.
All right.
Also, everything ahead of Nazi Germany, you can tell because the level of violence goes up.
More than Haas?
You know.
That's world planetary.
I'm not
All right.
trying to say there wasn't a lot.
Anybody else?
It might already be on there. I can't see all of them, but where would Gundam place? Like the OG Gundam.
OG Gundam. Okay. That's definitely above the spaceflight threshold. I think somewhere around here. Oops. Yeah.
Finally before Nazi Germany.
Yeah. I mean, Sieg Zion. Sieg Zion.
HR, bud.
Yeah,
He's got a meeting set up next week already.
I have a tab with HR. Anybody else? Nothing else? No? Okay. All right. So that brings us back to my thesis question. Is the Protomen cyberpunk? I don't know. Research was inconclusive, but I am sure if our budget is increased, we'll definitely make a breakthrough in the next quarter.
Sounds good. Okay.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.